And we're going live, Ian. This is the overnight line shift. I am Drew Martin, your host. He's Ian Cameron. Find him on Twitter at Babano, his work at sportsmemo.com. And we're going into the Thursday lines to try to get you on the right side of these moves. We've been doing pretty well of late. Let's get right into it, Ian. We got 959, 960, Arizona versus LA. We got the two top teams in the NL West here. And two southpaws going on it. Robbie Ray versus Rich Hill, and it looks like Hill's commanding minus 155 number, 7.5 the total. I'm gonna guess you're on leaning towards the D-backs in this one from a sides perspective in the nightcap tomorrow, Ian.
Yeah, it's a hard case right now, Drew, to go against the LA Dodgers. I understand that. Everybody understands that right now with how well this team has played for the better part of the last month or so. But this, in theory, is a matchup where they have a shot with Robbie Ray on the mound. I'm thinking of the CFL quarterback now. Robbie Ray on the mound for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Look, he's been fantastic on the road, Drew. There's no question about that. 1.32 ERA, Arizona 6-1 in Rays 7 road starts this season. Very impressive numbers. And against the LA Dodgers, he's done pretty well in this ballpark. He pitched well against them earlier this season back in April here at Dodger Stadium, just 2 runs allowed in 6 innings of work. So I think Arizona's got a puncher's chance. And I'll say this about Rich Hill. Yeah, I know he shut out the Padres 7 innings in his last start, but prior to that, he's had some bumps in the road. There's no question. He's a lefty that the Arizona Diamondbacks certainly have seen often enough. They faced Rich Hill in April, 2 runs in 3 innings only for Rich Hill when he faced the Diamondbacks back in April this season. So I think the Diamondbacks are going to have a decent approach. They're going to be up against it, trying to beat Alex Wood on Wednesday night. They already lost to Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers Tuesday night. This is their spot. This is their game. If they're going to win one in this series, this will be it. So I'm leaning to the dog.
All right, man. Yeah, we're in agreement on that one. So moving on to the next, looks like we got 961, 962. Houston versus Toronto. And I'll tell you, with McCullers on the hill at under a minus 150 favorite, even though they're on the road in Canada, I can't help but lean towards the Astros here, Ian. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get bet up overnight and into tomorrow. So you agreeing with me? McCullers versus Liriano. Liriano coming from the left side, right there in your neck of the woods in Toronto.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that this line is probably going to go in Houston's direction. There's no question. I think they're going to see a lot of people try to come in and back Lance McCullers and the Astros against the absolutely reeling Toronto Blue Jays, who have definitely struggled. And look, Lance McCullers now, he's made 2 starts since returning to the Astros rotation after a brief stint on the DL, and he was pretty solid in both of those games. He allowed just 4 runs on just 10 hits and 10.1 innings. So solid stuff from Lance McCullers. 2 walks, 14 strikeouts in those 2 outings against Seattle and the Yankees. So, very, very good for Lance McCullers since he's returned. No question. Liriano is just a guy for the Toronto Blue Jays that's been an extreme disappointment. Inconsistent pitching has plagued him right from day one, and it's carried over here so far this season. Look at the recent outings for Liriano. 7, 2, 4, 3, 5, 2, 5. I mean, there's just not been that stream of consistency at all from the Blue Jays southpaw here. Francisco Liriano didn't fare well last year against the Houston Astros. 5 runs, 8 hits, and 5.2 innings. That's not a good sign either. And that's what I mentioned on the roundtable. The Astros offense is just blistering the baseball right now. Look at the runs they've put up their last 9 games. 5, 8, 4, 11, 6. 4, 7, 8, 16. I mean, they're just crushing the baseball right now. It's bad news and a bad recipe for Liriano and the Jays here.
Sorry about that, Ian. Yeah, it looks like you're watching it in the background now, too. 6-6 game in the AL East matchup against the Yanks here.
Yeah, it is. It's on the TV in the background. Yeah, they got the bases loaded, 1 out, the Jays. Betances struggling again. Oh, my goodness. This guy's been brutal lately all of a sudden for the Yankees out of this pen. This Yankee pen in general, it's got issues, and all of a sudden it's a little bit of a sore spot for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, we got San Francisco, Detroit, Cueto versus Sanchez, 2 righties going at it. Looks like pretty much an even matchup. BetOnline has San Francisco a minus 106 favorite or underdog, any way you want to look at it. 9.5 is the total. Do you see any movement in this one in a day game tomorrow?
You could see some upward movement in the total. I definitely am in a situation here where I don't really trust either starter. Johnny Cueto to me is not the same pitcher he was years ago. He had a great run with the Cincinnati Reds where I think you could have legitimately said he was one of the better pitchers in baseball, briefly as well with Kansas City. But it was at the tail end of that playoff run with the Kansas City Royals, where Johnny Cueto has sort of been a lot more hittable as far as I'm concerned in recent outings. Last time out against Pittsburgh, 3 runs, 7 hits, 5 innings, not a great start by any stretch. 114 pitches. He got stretched out a little bit, labored through that game. I'm not sure I trust him here in this ballpark against the Detroit Tigers. But on the flip side here, we got Anibal Sanchez, and we've talked about him a few times since he's been back with the Tigers. He's been okay. But nothing to write home about for the Detroit Tigers since he's rejoined the rotation in 3 starts against Seattle, San Diego, and Cleveland. The Giants have perked up a little bit. They have played better baseball, 6-1 in their last 7 games. Maybe now that they're well out of the playoff mix, pressure's off. They're just relaxing, having some fun playing the game now. So it's an interesting game here. Lean to the Giants a little bit, but I'm not a big Cueto fan. If anything, maybe we'll get runs scored and lean over.
Okay. And last one, we got San Diego versus Cleveland, Lamet versus Tomlin. And if you think these minus 300 favorites always cash for you, last night they didn't. San Diego knocked off Cleveland and cashed a big ticket there on the Padres. So you think they can do another one? It's not quite that high of a price. Minus 208 right now at Bet Online. Tomlin and the Cleveland Indians are commanding at home. But Lamet, he's a high ceiling guy, a young guy. He's one of those guys that, he could mow down this Indians lineup, but at the same time, you could be looking, 3 1/3, and he's already given up 5 runs. It's really rolling the dice, but if you're getting plus 180 on the pods, I personally don't think it's that bad of a bet. Where do you feel? How do you feel, Ian?
Oh, San Diego or nothing, clearly for me. And the funny thing is, the one game I felt confident Cleveland would win in this series without a doubt was last night with Kluber against Cahill, and then ends up being a situation where the Padres blanked them 1-0. So I think the Padres now are looking at a situation here where they can win this series now all of a sudden. It's not totally impossible for Perdomo to beat Bauer tonight and San Diego to win that game. I don't think it's impossible for Danielson Lamet here to beat Josh Tomlin in this start either. I mean, you look at Tomlin, 6.55 ERA at home this season. He's been dreadful for the better part of each of his last 5 starts have not been good. He's allowed 4 runs or more in each of his last 5 starts against the White Sox, Dodgers, Baltimore, Minnesota, Detroit. Now, granted, you're taking a step down in class with San Diego's lineup. I understand that, but San Diego has hit the ball a little bit better as of late. We'll see if they can get to Tomlin. Danielson Lamet, it's funny because he's really pitched well last 3 starts, 3 runs or less in each of them against Milwaukee, Detroit, and Atlanta. And his road ERA, it's got it listed as 7.07, but there's one start that caused that inflated road ERA, and that was at Arizona when he gave up 9 runs in 3 innings. You throw that start out of his ledger, and you've got the New York Mets on the road where he gave up just 1 run in 5 innings. Milwaukee on the road where he gave up just 3 runs in 6 innings. So he's been a lot better on the road if you take out that horrendous start he had at Arizona, and that's understandable. Diamondbacks, good lineup, tough place to pitch in Chase Field. So I think I give Lamet and the Padres a puncher's chance here. I'm certainly not looking to lay that price with Tomlin and the Indians, not even maybe.
Yeah, man. Well, we agree, and it will be the Padres or pass for us. I haven't made a bet yet, but probably get on Bet Online here soon, and I'll take the pods. I'm going to go on record in saying that at almost a plus $2 favorite there, Ian. But yeah, man. Hey, Eddie, want to throw out any CFL tidbits for the listeners?
CFL tidbits. Well, we got this Week 3 schedule starting on Thursday night, BC against Montreal. Friday, we've got Calgary and Winnipeg. Should be a great game. I mean, those are 2 teams that are expected to be a player in the West Division, have a chance to be playoff teams. But Calgary certainly will, and Winnipeg probably has a good chance to be a playoff team. So that's going to be a fun game. Toronto versus Ottawa, interesting game because the Toronto Argonauts were supposed to be a bottom feeder this season. They end up shocking everybody, beating Hamilton in week 1. And I know they lost to BC, and everybody says, oh, here the Argos coming back down to earth now, going to be that rebuilding team everyone thought. But they were leading BC going into the 4th quarter on Saturday before BC finally put the foot down and pulled away and won that game by double digits. So I've been impressed with the Argos. Already Mark Trestman has got this team playing hard, playing with some structure, some good preparation. It's interesting to see how quickly he turns this franchise around. They're 1-1 through 2 weeks. I think they would have taken that at the beginning of the season, but I think the one thing I'll leave them with in terms of a CFL tidbit is just keep your eye on the Toronto Argonauts, because we knew they had a thin roster, a young roster, rebuilding team after a couple of disastrous seasons. But just in 2 weeks, I'm seeing energy. I'm seeing intensity from this team. I'm seeing a lot more structure, being prepared to play, not making big mistakes during games, penalties, turnovers, you name it. It's been a sound football performance through 2 games from the Toronto Argonauts, despite what people thought would be a depleted roster going into the season. So if they continue this kind of play early on and show you that effort and being competitive and being in games week in and week out, even though Toronto, it may not show up in the straight up win-loss record, the improvement, it could be an ATS profit maker by the time the season ends.
All right, man. That's the team Ricky Williams used to play for. And just because you're not watching CFL doesn't mean you can't make money on it. So make sure to check out SBR Picks for Ian's content in the CFL. It's a niche market. Couldn't recommend betting it more than I already have, to tell you the truth. But Ian, for the baseball knowledge and the CFL knowledge, I thank you, man. We will be back on Friday going over Saturday's card for the MLB. And thanks for tuning in. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up, a like, and also check out ifbc.live for August 4th and 5th, really the conference we're putting together to kick off football. So Ian will be there, I'll be there, and come say hello to us. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Good luck, everyone.